Hello, guys. What is up? Thanks for tuning in for another episode of Fixcolab BTS. It's basically a podcast or a stream, a daily broadcast where we bring you anything related to tech, anything that is currently in trend, technologies that are currently in trend, with the hope of empowering you to embark on digitalization. So I'm Fitri and I'm your host, and I am the CEO of Fixcolab. So Fixcolab is a software development house. We are based in Kuala Lumpur and we mainly focuses on mobile app, web app, and we also do a little bit of websites here and there. So this show obviously is not about selling you guys web or app development services, but it's more about discussing what are the technologies that are currently in trend, what are the current happenings in the world, how people are doing business, and yeah, guys, can you just have a laid back conversation to understand if this is beneficial to you guys or not. So today's episode, it'll just be me. If you've been watching the past few episodes, it's me with my colleague Leroy Shah. He's not here today. It's just gonna be me talking about a very, very interesting topic. I'm gonna talk about the history of Fixcolab, how we got started, and few things that I wish I had learned earlier about selling tech services. All right. So this episode today is going to be very, very interesting and beneficial if you guys are in the space of selling tech services, because I'll show you guys things that I've went through and how you guys can learn a little bit here and there with the hope of not repeating the mistakes that I've done. So, yep, before we get to the main thing, I'll run the intro, guys. Enjoy. All right. So the scene that you saw in the video was that intro was our first ever proper office back then, few years back in Melawati in KL. That was when we first started. So a little bit of background about me. I am a business graduated from University of Nottingham, Malaysia in the year of 2016, if I'm not mistaken, in international business management. And I am a self-taught programmer slash designer, or whatever you want to call it. It was never my intention to start a business to sell website development, app development, mobile development, but somehow life brought me here. And I've learned quite a few things. Obviously, I learned the hard way because, I am no programmer myself. I had to self-taught myself out of passion, and then kind of just, it was never really my intention to start a tech business, so to speak. But it all started. Let me just cut the story short, guys. It all started from an internship where I was assigned to, hey, figure out another idea. If this current idea doesn't work, so obviously, me being me, I researched quite a bit, and then I know that okay, I had an idea, but to validate this idea, I at least need a landing page, right? Like any other startups, if you have any ideas, the next, I would say, most logical thing that people do is to put together a landing page to promote and see and validate if that idea is something that people want or not. So without any knowledge, I went on YouTube and then I started Googling how to create a website. Found this one very, very short tutorial on how to set up a WordPress website. At that point, I had no idea what is WordPress, what is hosting, what is all these jargons related to tech. And it took me about a week, and 1 week later, obviously the landing page was there. But little did I know that process of coming up with something, materializing that idea into a landing page was something that I find joy in. So Obviously the business didn't start. I mean, that was me during the internship. I left the internship. Long story short, I went into corporate for 2.5 years at a tech company, also 123RF. They are one of the major stock images player in the world. But that whole time I was just doing freelance website, because throughout during the internship I fell in love with this, building website. And then I like it when you're able to translate that you have in your head into that design. That's probably how I think most interior designers, all these creative people, feel the joy that they get when they can finally translate from the idea into whatever output that they want to translate it to. So long story short, I was doing freelancing by the side. And then, me being me, I was fortunate enough to be surrounded by a bunch of friends who runs businesses. Either their father runs businesses or the family have been in business for so long. And there's something about them that made me very, very intrigued. What I find out was that all these business friends I have, when I say business friends, not this, my colleagues in business degree, but I'm talking about my colleagues whose family or who's running businesses, they seem to have a slightly different outlook towards life. And also their character is a little bit more outspoken. They are naturally confident, and I was noticing like these guys are not afraid to be themselves. They are not afraid to ask for what they want. They are very strict. They are very forward about themselves, and I couldn't help but to admire those character. And to me, because my childhood, I get to experience. I moved to a lot of places, so I get to experience a lot of different kind of people. So when I met this bunch of group of the sons of entrepreneur, there's something about their character that made me want to be in business. So that was what sparked that aha, like, what is this business thing? Why does everybody who runs business have these certain character traits? So that was the point when I sat behind my head. I wanted to start a business, right? But it never did happen right away. So after 2 years in corporate, I decided that it's not that I decided. It was a friend of mine, a dear friend of mine, who I've been telling him that, hey, maybe one day I want to start my own business. I want to do this thing. I want to do that thing. I want to really challenge myself. I want to learn about this whole business thing. And obviously, the thought of making money, the thought of being able to influence people was the main driver out of it. I'm not gonna lie, but this friend of mine was the one who convinced me, like, hey dude, if you're not gonna take the leap, you ain't gonna be able to do it. So that was when I decided that. I mean, it was kind of, to be honest, it's kind of a bit of an ego reaction, because when he said that, I was like, okay, I'll prove it to you. So I actually left job, and then I decided to just focus on doing websites. So that was when I established this small little company called Website Artisan, where we just focus on WordPress website. If you guys are not familiar, WordPress basically is a an open source framework for you to build websites. It's easy. You can figure a lot of things. You can integrate a lot of things, and it's actually one of the most used content management system to put together a website. So when I went full time to it, right? When obviously I don't come from a background of family business. My parents are not businessmen, so this whole idea of how to sell was something that took me a long while for me to figure out, this is actually how we sell. And I want to just share a little bit of that with you guys, especially if you guys out there who are watching this. I don't know, if you guys are running businesses and you're already doing so well, then you don't want to have to. You can skip this part. but those people who are new, who are part of startups. And a lot of times we feel that people are buying our product because they like the features. So the thing about selling websites, it's very, very commoditized, guys. A lot of people us because it's so easy to put together an offering and say, hey, I can help you do websites. There are a lot of people. It's a sea of, it's a red ocean, so to speak, when we talk about this website development services. So, like many of the people out there, I thought that I should sell based on features, where I would go out and tell people, hey, I can actually do you this piece of website. It's going to load fast. It's going to have this cool SEO thing about it. It's going to contain this feature, these pages. And yes, I do get some customers, but it wasn't, I would say, it was very difficult to convince people to say yes to me. Even if they do, they would end up, haggling for the price, because now they are comparing a bunch of people with a bunch of features that they promise, and then whoever has the best offering, I'll go with that. So the first few years was just all about discounting myself, trying to give as much features as I can while charging as little as I can, just for the sake of, because I was desperate, guys. Imagine going from, a full-time job, taking the leap of faith of, okay, I have no plan, I'm just gonna wing this, figure out how I'm gonna sell. And here I was cold calling people, cold emailing people, asking them, hey, I can actually help you do this for this price. And that was a big lesson number one for me, guys. Like, you never ever sell features, because if you do, you will be in the sea with other people. I mean, obviously, I can get deeper behind this, but what I can tell is the big brands, the brands like in the likes of Apple, you name it, Nike, they don't really sell features. They never really tell you about the cushioning. Let's say Nike doesn't really tell you about the type of fabric they use for their shoe. The sole is made from this cushioning. They never really explain that. In fact, if you look at Apple, their billboard doesn't even mention anything about their features. Yes, they do tease it a little bit, but they don't really sell the features. They don't really spell it out. If you look at what other good brands are there, Ferrari. Have you ever seen a Ferrari commercial where they spell out, oh, this is actually a 570 horsepower, four-wheel drive, blah, 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 car that will, blow your mind? They don't. In fact, what they do is so this is key, they take the audience from a place of, so basically they give the audience a glimpse of how life will look with the product. Let me repeat, they give a glimpse of how the audience life could look like with the product. If you look at, let's say, Ferrari, I always use this example with my team. Ferrari, typically all the commercial, you can Google it, Ferrari Roma. Roma is one of the latest Ferrari production. So in that video, it was a video of a hero who, well, a good-looking man dressed in suit, was driving in Rome, Paris, and as he was driving around, he kept getting attention from people. The scene went from, he was passing through in front of a theater. Even the artist who was performing at the theater turned around and looked, oh, what car is that? And he was getting all that validation regardless of who, like basically everybody in Rome turned their head to see, oh, what is this car all about? And then halfway through the story, he met a good-looking woman who happens to be driving another Roma, And both of them seem to have the best time of their lives just roaming around Rome with that two-piece machine. And if you watch that video, there's one really cool thing. There was never a voiceover about the product. It was just this narrative, a short sketch, a short scene of this guy who could have been you if you have the car, and you get all sort of validation from people around you if you have the car. Now, what Ferrari have just did is they have just took you from a place of this is what you are right now, and this is a potential life that you could have with this vehicle. And typically, the vehicle is something that the product. So that was a big lesson for me when I started realizing that conversation starts changing from hey, what do you want? To hey, how do you think your business is going to be with this piece of technology? Talk to me about how business can thrive, how your business will look like if you can successfully implement this piece of tech. And all of a sudden, people start becoming more emotionally invested in getting this solution. They start seeing that, hey, when they go with us, I can see a clear picture of what the future may look like if I can successfully implement this piece of technology. And from there, people stop discounting. There wasn't any topic about, hey, can you reduce price whatsoever? It was all about finding somebody who can implement this plan that I have. So that was huge lessons for me, number one. And then number two, one thing that I wish I got to know about earlier is the fact that, building a product is one thing. You see, building a website is one thing. Everybody can build it. Any guy who have access to YouTube. I can tell you, now anyone can build a website. There are a lot of tools out there. You can just search a web builder. You can either go with an existing do-it-yourself approach where you subscribe to any of these web builder and do it yourself, or you hire someone. This obviously you're doing it because you want to save time. You want to not be wasted with trying to figure out yourself and you trust an expert. Or you could go the route of completely finding an expert to, this is my vision, bring it to life. But so these are the three ways, right? But the real tough part is not actually building, it's implementing this piece of tech. So a lot of times when you want to build a new piece of technology, right, be it an application, a system, or SAP, ERP, and all these fancy systems, the real challenge, the question that you should really get clear of is how do I go about implementing this? Because when we talk about introducing a new way of, when we talk about introducing a new product, right, when you want to build something new, a lot of times the challenge is to get the user to be able to habituate themselves to that particular product. If you're living in Malaysia, this is a clear example. MySejahtera, when COVID first happened in Malaysia, in the country, there were a few apps where there were a few apps that Malaysian can use to update their location, their whereabouts. We had Selangkah, we had MySejahtera, and then some. There were a few more smaller ones. But at the end of the day, MySejahtera became the default app, and it wasn't at the start of it. People don't really. Obviously, we had COVID to force us to download the app, but it never really became a habit until there was this one time where, in order for us to claim a government incentive, I'm not sure how much was that, we had to download MySejahtera, and we can apply from there. I remember it was something with Touch and Go thing. You have to download MySejahtera, apply from that app, and then you can now get that incentive from the government. And that was the catalyst that led majority of Malaysians to, hey, I want free money, so let's download this piece of technology, and that gave them an incentive to use that, and enough repetition, like using MySejahtera became a norm. In fact, now I don't think, we are so used to MySejahtera, the implementation of it, to me, in terms of getting the user to finally use it, they've done it very well. This is something that a lot of corporate leaders, people who run companies, never really thought of. Yes, obviously, implementing new piece of technology is interesting. I mean, the idea of building it is interesting, but when the product is there, implementing it is the real task. So, few things that I learned. Number one, when you want to implement it, you have to incentivize people to use it. A lot of companies that we work with, right? So before we got to know this, I mean, obviously we learn things as we go. Before we learned this, we thought that once we've built the product, here we go, it's done, right? And the client will think that, yep, they've delivered what they're supposed to deliver. I like it. We pay, it's done. But after 1 week, a 2 week, 3 week, a month came in, we start realizing that, hey, why are you still not using the tech? And then they said that, hey, we actually hoo-hard about this to our internal team. We start telling our customers they can now order using this app, but they don't seem to be using the app. They don't seem to be using the piece of technology that we've built. And that was when we start realizing that, hey, once you have a new piece of technology, it's not as simple as, hey guys, now please use it. You have to incentivize human beings or your user to use it. If you look at how Grab Pay, right, when they introduced Grab Pay, they had this incentive where, hey, you can buy Starbucks for $1 if you use Grab Pay. So because of that incentive, people actually jumped on Starbucks and download the app, use Grab Pay, link their card, and use the app. Voila. Now you get people to start understanding that piece of technology. That was number one. That when we talk about implementing new piece of technology, it has to be incentivized. Humans are habitual creatures. Whatever we do on a daily basis is actually very repetitive. And for us to introduce something new, it takes a lot on the brain unless we incentivize it, right? So that was another lesson that I learned. Implementing piece of tech is the real challenge. And if you want to implement piece of tech, you have to start looking, okay, what are the ways that we can incentivize, right? So when we talk about the implementation, there's actually more than one. What, aside from the incentive, you want to start with a small group of people. Now, I have quite a simple analogy for you to make sense, right? You have a new piece of product, and when you open the floodgate to everyone else to start using it, okay, just imagine that you have a piece of technology that will allow Malaysians to I have no clue, to allow Malaysians to book food for the next 30 days, right? And the food will be discounted. There's enough subsidy from the government, so there's incentive for you to use it. The mistake that most tech owner or product owner companies do, is they open the floodgate to everybody. They go on the stage and tell people, hey guys, now the food are ready, please come in. So what typically happens is you will have barrages of traffic, so many people downloading, using the app. And 9 times out of 10, this will happen. Your app will crash. Your product will, you will start seeing glitches that was not even notified. Hey, that was not. You start realizing things that you were not aware of few hours back or few weeks, few days back. So the best way to implement, obviously you have the element of incentive there. Second one is to start with small beta group. These are the people that you want them to start using it first. And once you get their feedback, you slowly bring in more people to start using it. It's as simple. It's all about risk management, guys, because this is where things fall bad really fast, right? You spend how many years, how many months building this piece of technology. You created a huge hoo-ha. You tell people that on this day, if you download this app and you use this piece of technology, you'll be able to get this incentive. And then you tell people to go in, everybody. So that means you only have one shot at screwing up. You have to understand that people, the consumer, the users of the app, is very, very, very spoiled because we are used to technologies that are super smooth, that are glitch free, that if we download another technology and we saw or there is a small inconvenience that we face in using it, we will drop off and we will never come back. So if you are able to start with a small beta group and you start noticing all this friction, you'll be able to at least improve that and release it to a bigger audience when it's better. So this way, not many people saw the not many people were exposed to that flaw, that glitch. So that is another huge lesson. We had an experience. I mean, people in Malaysia had an experience few months back, where we for this whole COVID thing, the authority introduced a website where you can actually get your vaccine appointment, and it was released the whole Malaysia, the whole country, in one day, and people were not able to even book. People got frustrated. People started to write bad comments, and then now the project was taken down. The website was no longer used. So all those efforts and resources went down the drain. So those are the lesson, right? So I'm not going to go through a lot more lessons. I'll save those for more episodes to come. We're going to talk about sales. We're going to bring in Roy and get him to share about the negotiation part of things. How do you negotiate? How do you make sure that, when you give a price, when it comes to selling product, you're not over promising, you're not under promising, you can still be profitable, so on and so forth. And that will be things that we'll cover in the future. If you guys have any other topics that you guys want us to cover, you can watch our previous episodes. We talked about blockchain technology, we talked about virtual reality, we talked about cryptocurrency. We are going to touch a lot different topics about technology. We will bring guests to give you this diversity of info revolving technology, with the hope of making sure that you guys are up to date to what's currently happening around the world. So that's it for me today, guys. I hope this short sharing session is useful for you guys. If you guys like what you guys are hearing, if you're watching from Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, thank you so much. If you're asking what software am I using, it's called StreamYard. Before this, we would have to go to each of these individual platform to click go live and then have different devices. But now it is all available from just one link. And yeah, guys, thank you so much for watching, and I'll speak to you guys again tomorrow. Bye bye.